Hey, you're now in the den with Dr. Jenn, which is a safe and comfortable place to explore female sexuality from a variety of perspectives and start thinking about sexuality outside the box. What does sex education mean to you? This is our Den Chat topic today. What do you think should be included in sex education for kids and teens? Do you think it's important to stress abstinence-only education, or take a more comprehensive approach to sexuality as a natural human activity that is also powerful and needs to be respected, valued, and appreciated? Well, it's probably not hard to see where I stand on this issue. But the powers that be in our government have a different perspective. To date, the government has spent $7 billion supporting abstinence-only sex education, which is not supported by scientific research as an effective form of education. This funding has made it quite difficult for public schools to be able to teach the broader and more accurate comprehensive sex education. So our teens and young adults today are potentially quite sexually ignorant. It doesn't mean they're not doing it, though. Abstinence-only sex is a form of sex education which emphasizes abstinence from sex, obviously, but to the exclusion of all other types of sexual and reproductive health education, particularly regarding birth control and safe sex. Now, this type of sex education promotes sexual abstinence until marriage and either completely avoids any discussion about the issue of contraception or only reveals failure rates associated with such use. Proponents argue that comprehensive sex education encourages sexual activity and that sex outside of marriage and at a young age has physical and emotional costs. Now, yes, abstinence is the best way to avoid pregnancy and STDs and emotional stress connected to sexual activity. However, there ends up being mixed messages with a denial of what teens are feeling emotionally and physically, and just plain inaccurate information. For example, there's been misrepresentations around the failure rates of contraception, misrepresenting the effectiveness of condoms in preventing HIV transmission. False claims that abortion increases the risk of infertility, premature birth for subsequent pregnancies, and ectopic pregnancy. Treating stereotypes about gender roles as if they are scientific fact. And the fact that they say sex should be reserved for marriage works to delegitimize lesbian and gay relationships, as marriage is not legal in that case. And what are the underlying messages and beliefs and assumptions here? That sex is dirty, sex is bad, it's dangerous, adolescents should be shamed and guilted into avoiding sex because it's uncomfortable force that wreaks havoc on this earth. It's wrong to learn about our bodies, experience pleasure under our own terms, respect our bodies and sexuality in a way that's authentic. It's coming from fear. Fear of the amazing power that sexual connection has. It's creative, procreative, a life force to be reckoned with. Most of these kids do end up having sex as teenagers or young adults. And then what happens? One, they're not educated about the risks of this and don't have skills to discuss it. Two, there's a funny thing we do around sex sometimes when it's so linked to guilt and shame. We'll not make conscious choice around it, like asking or choosing or discussing using a condom, because having that discussion means we've consciously chosen to engage in sex. And if we don't have open communication about it, it's like it just happened, and we're not really guilty of it. Yeah, guilt and shame. Pretty powerful when connected to sex. Sexual fun fact number 94. Did you read about this in the news recently? How was the mother of a 9-year-old daughter in Rhode Island teaching her about sex? By having sex with her boyfriend in front of her daughter, routinely. Well, okay, so why does this seem so wrong? Sex is a natural act. At least they weren't avoiding the topic. However, a 9-year-old girl? Okay, this definitely makes most of us uncomfortable because of the incest taboo and the perceived innocence of children. And in our cultural understanding and experience of sex, this definitely crosses the border into inappropriate because of the importance for girls to learn about their own bodies, to learn about their own borders around sexual activity, and not have that imposed on them. Yeah, the mother and boyfriend were sentenced to 3 years probation. The Den recommend. I've got a very cool and informative audio podcast link for you to check out if you're interested in learning more about sex education or have a teen or young adult who's interested. This is compliments of Kidder and the folks at the Sex is Fun podcast show who have taken it upon themselves to do something about the lack of accurate sex education. They've made April the month of comprehensive sex education and safer sex awareness. They recorded a show about comprehensive sex education in an attempt to reverse some of the ignorance and damage being spread by the current abstinence-only sex education brigade. It's funny, it's educational, not lectury, it's interesting, open-minded, really sex education in a down-to-earth and entertaining way. And you can check out the feed here. New Den section, favorite sex jokes. And here's my favorite sexual joke of all time. Did you hear about the guy who was into sadomasochism? Oh, never mind. I'll just be beating a dead horse. Yeah, I learned that one from my freshman English professor a long time ago back at Lehigh University. Still love it. So if you want to comment on abstinence-only education or offer your favorite sex joke, write me at jennifer@DrJennsDen.com or visit me at DrJennsDen.com or call the Den hotline at 1-866-403-7592. So brush up on your sex education and be kind to yourself. Can I have the mirror too? I've learned from experience when I watch a show and I'm like, oh, I should have looked in the mirror before that.